As always, this is being recorded, so it's for future reference. We'll start off with accepting the October minutes.
Move to accept.
All in favor? All right, so moved. Appointments, none. Correspondence, Tyson, butcher his name, is it Waugh? Waugh? 21 Janice Circle, do we have that correspondence somewhere? Right.
We already got an email, so.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Ken.
All right,
So we've got a lot of these, not just recently, but over the years, where people have had either damage to their property because of a water main break or dirty water or, whatever. And our practice has always been to tell them to go through their homeowners insurance. And then their homeowners insurance will contact our homeowners, not our homeowners, our business insurance. And then, any claims will be paid through our insurance company. That's because that's why we have insurance. So I actually coincidentally, we were meeting with our insurance guy this afternoon, well, actually late this morning. So I was gonna talk to him again to ask him if that again was the right procedure. And he said, yes, that's the way it should be done. It doesn't affect their, some people are saying, oh, it's gonna affect my, rating, I'm gonna get a surcharge, but when it's not your fault, you don't get any of those. You don't get a penalty for claiming when it's somebody else's, because that claim is being discussed between the two insurance carriers, and we don't even hear sometimes, and that the claim has been filed, so. So my recommendation is to continue that practice. I know there's been, discussions about, whether we should have, a minimum, that we pay somebody if they, whether it's put in a filter system, whether it's damaged to a toilet or boiler or whatever, my issue and the issue's been in the past is, what number could you come up with and how can you be fair to everybody? And so we've always fell back on the insurance, but, certainly open the discussion on this.
so question would be, all right, so he says 484.82 was the repair bill. If his deductible is $1,000, would that insurance company still contact us?
Yeah, because he's not responsible for the deductible if it's somebody else's claim,
So
so.
if he claims in, then their insurance company would call us.
No, we have a
Our
deductible, so we mount,
Yeah.
but we're self-insured through our carrier. So that just comes out of the pool of money that we've created over 30
Okay.
years, so. We don't issue a check to our insurance, very rarely does it. I know it's a process and that's what the people don't like, they'd rather just say, hey, cut me a check for $400, but. We don't have a mechanism theoretically to do that in our budget, and, we pay over $20,000 for liability insurance, so. Why do we have insurance if we're gonna go a different route, so. And somebody comes in and I think one of the things, the guy said he's got, I don't know, some crazy number of like an $8,000, treatment system that he put in, or 1,800, I mean. How do you justify that? And it would absorb a lot of our time going out and looking at everybody's house and determining, who installed it, what was the plumber, did they, was it legitimate? what about people that did it, a year ago or 2 years ago? I mean, we've had dirty water for 35 years. I mean, certainly not to the extent that we've had the last couple episodes, this year and a couple of years ago, but it just, it gets convoluted, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. And they have paid out, certainly, I mean,
Well, he's requesting that the overages for use be reimbursed. He's not asking for the.
yeah, I was just speaking about, other claims.
Yeah. Um,
Yeah.
in the past, we have, one time. Correct me if I'm wrong, in the past for one time overages, for good reason or reasonably good reason. So we would give a discount or take it up.
Well, I mean, so here's where we sit. I mean, we've always had isolated spots and areas of groundwater. And, but now this is pretty much widespread and mostly affecting, obviously, to the bend. Basically from here that way, really hasn't been affected that much, or if any.
Mark,
Yep,
couple of points.
sure.
One, Matt mentioned the process. But the whole situation we're involved in now is part of a process that was mandated by EPA and the Mass Protection Association. So, people. They mandated the increase in February of the amount of chlorine to go in the water, which immediately caused a chemical reaction of flocculation. And the problem with the color of the water, not the content, nothing that the feds and the state said, or have done since, showed that the addition of the chlorine and the higher tidal level would cause the flocculation or cause any medical damage. So, one, we're just following the mandates given to us. Two, if we start to give people that are currently making adjustments to their own water by putting in the filtration systems, that's all well and good, but I don't see how we, in fairness to those that don't, can then pay those people that can afford it versus those who cannot afford to put in a filtration system. We're using their money to pay for other people's stuff when they pay their bills, and in turn, they can't afford to put in these different systems. So I don't see how, in fairness to all the customers, that we can pay this one or that one.
Well, I wouldn't, when it comes
Yeah,
to.
look at those different issues.
Yeah, there's two different issues. When it comes to, and I'll call it a mechanical issue, such as, water heater, dishwasher, so on and so forth. Yes, that should go through the insurance company. Their insurance company should call our insurance company, and we can settle that out that way. That takes care of that part. But when we've had such a vast issue with the brown water in the north end, in the center, and previously before down in Pleasant Street area and south because of Trinity. That's where I'm saying that we should probably do a one-time discount of some type, percentage-wise, on the usage of the next bill.
Yeah, I think what you've done in the past is, we look at history.
Yep.
And somebody said, I had a toilet leak, it was turbine because it clogged up with sediment.
Right.
And we looked at that and we would credit them, 50% or something like that.
Right. But
on
this,
an individual basis.
this credit would be across the whole water. would be across the whole district. You know, you just can't isolate like, yes, you know, the people in the north end, you know, but no, nobody, it would have to be across the board.
And I think what we talked about over the last few months is maybe, you know, unfortunately, the only money we generate is what we need to produce clean water. So even though we give a credit, you know, we're gonna have to ask for it back some way because somebody's gonna pay $53 million for all these treatment plants. However, because it's been delayed a little, we talked about putting off that 10% increase, you know, 1 quarter. And, you know, so that would go across the board to everybody.
Right, well, I think that, and my own opinion, that plus, because this has been just a disaster since August.
Well, no,
And
yeah.
it's really inconvenienced a lot of people. And I honestly think that we should do something above what we would normally do. And I know some people would be like, wow, that's fantastic. Some people are like, no, that's not enough. But again, you know, the only monies that we also get too is what's generated from the users also. So percentage wise, that's something that we're gonna have to work out additionally, my own opinion. And then, you know, go from there in the next quarter. So, you know, definitely, you know, not raise it to 10% and then give an additional on top of that.
Yeah, so what we've got coming up
Oh,
for expenses, let me just, so we're right on top. So what we got coming up for the real expenses between now and when we actually start construction, which is hopefully, you know, next fall, right around this time, is about $1 million between the pilot study work.
Mhm.
So the reason we started the 10% increase early was so we could generate some cash and we could spend that without having to short-term borrow. And I'm just saying this over just so people can hear it. So we've been delayed about at least 3 months, maybe longer than that. So by putting off that 10%, 1 quarter, maybe even 2, we could look at it again in 3 months. You know, then that revenue stream would be pushed out a little. And I think I'd feel comfortable with what we got about $2.5 million to play with in the bank, never mind the rest of the operation. But I think we'd still be okay not having to short-term borrow. You know, I feel comfortable with the 10%, and then I'd look at the other 10%, you know, in a couple of months. So it all depends how fast the pilot studies have get generated. So
on top of which we have facing us, what's the estimated cost now for the plant?
well, everything's about $53 million. So
And $53 million is gonna have to come from the users. So.
Oh, no, I get that. I get that 100%.
There's a reasonableness to delay the increases that we voted. But at the same time, not too distant future, we've got looking at us, the 53 million, that's today's prices.
Right, 2 years.
And with inflation, I think we'll be lucky if we get under 56 to 57 million dollars. And our budget is only, how much, Dave, now?
2.8.
About,
Yeah, a little over 2.
2.8, yeah.
yeah, about $3 million.
Well, our debt will be about $1.5 million.
The other thing is that, I know we haven't done it, but I think that formally, we should inquire from the state if we can get a relaxation from the title level for the chlorine. That's the biggest,
That won't happen.
well, yeah,
I know that. That's a
Even if
federal,
they
that's a
say
federal law,
no.
so.
what we've done is we acted proactively and put them on notice too. It's not us. There's nothing, we're doing we started back last year.
Ken, I'm not arguing anything that you're saying on what we've done and so on. I mean, we've been ahead of the game on a lot of things that, you know, a lot of our users don't realize. But the end result is that, you know, the brown water started in August. And here it is, you know, we're heading towards the middle of November and we're still getting issues with the brown water.
And we will, until,
And obviously, we're trying to mitigate it as much as we can by flushing and so on and so forth.
yeah,
But again, you know, our users are still, It's still impacted, and, you know, it's like anything else, if you purchase something and it's bad, you want to return it or get your money back or a credit, well, I still think that, again, we should do something to address that too.
One of the things that my take is that, you know, obviously, and every water system has this brown water occasionally, this and that, but like Mike says, this is an extreme situation. Understanding things are out of our control because it's driven by the state and the federal government, and I am beyond pissed that they're not here to answer any of the questions or to bear any of the responsibility. Okay, they just make these mandates and we gotta live with it. That being said, we are providing a product that is not usable. It's that simple. Not everybody has the same degree of difficulty with brown water sediment or whatever. But I'm inclined to postpone the 10% increase. And look at, you know, maybe crediting 1/4 at 50% for the next bill. I mean, it's, you know, something's gotta be done. I mean, people are spending money to buy bottled water, putting in filtration systems, you know, all that stuff. And, you know, I don't think that would be unreasonable to make that adjustment at a one-time deal. Okay, we're working on the process to get things cleared out. Working on the process to get things filtered, you know, PFAS systems. Okay, we're even working with the federal and state government, you know, to do what they're telling us to do. I feel like a pawn in this game. Okay, because we are. And the problem is, the people who pay for it, including myself, okay, sometimes can't use the product we deliver. And in many ways, it's not a lot of our fault, not a lot of anybody else's fault. It is what it is. Okay, so you deal with the cards as given to you. Clean up the system, get things flushing, get the PFAS systems online. I understand the financing, okay? But, you know, to put it, you know, to start out right away with 10%, I think it's reasonable to push that back a little bit. And, you know, if people are buying water and buying filtration systems on their own, which I've done in the same, you know, I don't think it's, I think it's reasonable to do some sort of a credit on the next quarter bill.
So just quickly looking at that, so I would recommend, well, not recommend, but I agree with you on the 10%, push that out for a quarter. The simplest way for us to impact the users is through our base fee, which I think is $30.
For 5/8.
So $30, 4,600 accounts, just round numbers here, it's about $150,000 to $170,000. Obviously, some will pay more base fee. So that is, it's a hit, you know, obviously to the revenue stream, but that is probably doable.
Yeah.
I can come back next month with some numbers for you, and then it could be instituted for that billing,
1st January.
the 1st of January billing. So I think what you really need to decide today is the 10%. If you want us to postpone that on this coming billing, then I can get you some numbers for December, and you'd still have time to make the adjustment for that next billing cycle. So back to this guy, then you just on an individual basis, I think you have to decide if you're going to credit somebody because they had to run their water. But there's a lot of people that have been running their water. So are you going to get imploded, or are you just going to take a stance that you're going to work on helping everybody?
Well, I think we just gotta take, you know, if we do individual, it's just gonna take forever to go through that whole list. I think if we did a blanket one-time credit to everybody, whether it's through the base or a percentage, then I think that would.
Percentage would be very difficult.
Yeah.
Just base charges simplest from our billing system.
Yeah.
The base charge everybody's getting percentage of, my water bill's only $40 a quarter.
Right.
Because it's 400.
Right.
I had a comment, a couple comments. One is the usage that he has listed there, Mike. He could
34,000.
include that usage charge to his insurance claim, which other people have done that before and received compensation. Instead of us paying it out, go through the insurance company.
So to process a claim, is that something that we should probably, I know it's tough with our antiquated website that we have now, but put something on there, the process of filing claims so people,
All they have to do is call the insurance company.
yeah, call their insurance company.
They call their insurance company and their insurance agent will come out.
Yeah.
What's the
Right.
problem? Here's my bill. This is what happened. And
Well,
then,
a lot of people don't get that either.
I know, and then they just call my
Well,
office.
we can,
I mean, if there's something that we could just add on there, you know, to file a claim, this is the process that you need to
Procedure,
do,
yeah.
a procedure.
Oh, yeah.
Just a little blurb on there or something, you know, maybe also put it on,
the website and send something on the billing too.
I'm just saying that, or, you know, I don't know about Facebook, if that would really open up a lot of stuff, but,
We'll refer them to the website.
yeah,
Facebook.
yeah.
Yeah, we could put it on the website.
You know,
Contact the
at least there's a
agent.
process on that, and you can also say too that, you know, with the additional, you know, water usage, you can also, you know, claim that, contact that.
Well,
Let's get
once
the
you guys
insurance.
decide what you do, I can get on the water quality group and just
Yeah.
make a
Yeah.
post.
The,
of
the
what
other,
your
the
decision
other thing
was.
too is that, you know, so right now we need to, postpone and make a motion to postpone, the 10% increase. And,
For how long?
well, at least a quarter, and then, you know, we're gonna review it every quarter. And then go from there, but I think we should do it quarterly. You know, and then at the next billing, we'll look at it again, and
Yeah.
if we need or justify or have to do it again, then we'll do it again.
I mean, you
But
could-
we're gonna get the insurance company in here too. And get their recommendations because they're gonna be the
Yeah,
ones that
well,
try to.
it's kind of works out really well that our insurance company is coming today, so.
Yeah,
You know, all those questions that, you know, Dave, Adam and Matt, I hope will ask, with that, so. So anyway, motion on the table, 10%, postponement.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So we'll carry that out.
And just for clarification on that, you guys, since I've got to implement that, that would be for Q4 usage, correct?
The next,
Yeah.
The next bill.
Merry Christmas, Bill.
Yeah,
I'd like to go back to that point of sending a letter to the state asking for them to relax the tidal level of the chlorine to what they had prior to February. We can ask them, we know they're gonna say no, but I think it is important to have people see that we're trying to do what they need.
No, we can send an email.
We
Your answer's
can-
gonna be if it's an EPA mandate.
We can send an email, you know, we can,
I want to see the answer.
we can get the answer, and then once we get the answer, we can also post that too, so people know that, look, you know, I'm just using numbers, you know, we're at 2%, we wanted 1%, well, no, you're gonna stay at 2%.
In this case,
Yeah.
like Don Quixote
Right.
against the windmill, you know, there's no way they're gonna change their mind.
No.
They have been of no consequence for us all the way through this. When we've asked for any kind of device, they just say, that's what you're required.
Right.
That's what you're required. And they give us nothing.
Right.
And we're not the only ones in the state that are now having to
No,
experience
we're
this.
not. There's a lot of other
So-
towns, especially out in the west, for some reason, the western part of the state.
Trying to put it back where it is.
Yeah, oh, yeah, no,
Have water problems too, just cold water.
no, I agree.
Is it the source or the filtration?
Hold on, what, I know you've had your hand up for a while, so go ahead.
Thank you. Lydia Bulgari, Bernard Road. My last water bill was 120,000 gallons of water as opposed to 2 or 3. Can I come live at your house when I lose mine?
No.
Anyway, I am in the process, I have a copy of the invoice from my plumber, which discusses the sediment debris, blah, 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 and all the things he had to do. So I'm in the process of applying for an abatement from the sewer department so that they don't chokehold me at the end of the month. I have no idea what's gonna happen, but
They're
people-
usually pretty good.
your customers may not know that that's an option. And that
This is
would-
something that we should, you know,
There would be I don't know what the relief is gonna be, because I haven't seen my bill yet. But I've talked to Mary. She has a copy of the invoice from my plumber. And I'm not asking somebody to pay for my plumber, but maybe I throw that in with a copy of the bill that I paid to my homeowner's insurance. But what are they gonna say? And the bigger problem I project, if this drought continues during the winter and Worcester Street is offline, God forbid, what happens if we have another mill fire? There won't be any water in Lake Ripple.
Well, Worcester Street is offline right now, but we do take our monthly samples. We pump it to waste, we take our monthly samples, so if we had a problem with one of our other wells, or the demand went back up for whatever reason, we can stop Worcester Street and run it again. It's just that we're trying to not use it as much as possible to prevent the discolored water.
And at the last note on Worcester Street, how come that hazmat cleanup at Bronson Fargo's old gas station isn't impacting the well?
I've been here for 100 years, so.
Yes, have I.
Yeah, so the mobile station, the Charter Fuel, the Extra Mart, all of those gas stations have had 21E site cleanups through waste.
Oh, they pulled the tanks there probably 20 years ago.
So for years, we've been watching the monitoring, and actually, short story is all of the groundwater movement is towards Lake Ripple. So none of those plumes, which there are plumes around those, all went towards Lake Ripple. They never went back towards our station. So that's the answer to your question. The actual groundwater flowed towards us this way. So even with our pumping that well, we've never drawn that plume in that direction.
So there's no chance that there's any kind of contamination from that?
We have test wells that are on this side of Subway that they've taken samples from
Yeah.
for years, and there's never been any contamination going the opposite
Because
direction.
they look like they're digging for China.
Yeah, and I'm surprised with that pile because I thought that site was completely cleaned up, but there must be still some little small residuals.
Well,
there,
and
so.
that begs the question, does the site maybe need to be expanded to behind Burger King?
Well, they'll go through that whole process with the state. That's very regulated, so they will make them do extra testing and stuff if they find extra contamination.
No, they
I wouldn't
do
be
boring.
worried about that, so.
Thank you.
did you have a question?
I'll wait.
Okay. All right. Moving on, treasurer's report, financials.
Wendy?
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Okay, so for October, we had an opening balance of 1,928,000. We had receipts of 744,000, disbursements of 301,000. So we had a closing balance of 2,371,000. Page 2, revenue this fiscal year, 847,515 to last year, 1,815,906. Operating expenses, 930,791 to last year, 824,790. Interest income, 29,371 to last year's 49,162. Net income, a loss of 58,578 to last year's income of 1,018,092. Water revenue only, 728,580 to 1,428,852. Connection fees, 11,000 to last year's 374,200. Page 3. System improvements, 131,650 out of the 325. Haven't purchased the vehicle yet. Pigeon Hill tank booster, 1,798,348, 1.7 mil, 1,700,000. Engineering future PFAS treatment plant, 431,610 to 250,000. of the 250,000. Professional services, Power Line Drive and Foliot, 5,425 out of the 50,000. We have the Worcester Street East SRF, 23 million. Trinity Foliot SRF, 29 million. Page 4, cash accounts, MMDT, 1,807,950. Depository, 454,845. Unipay, 22,430. Payroll, 42,446. Debit, 3,406. Vendor, 39,788. For a total of 2,370,866. And then we have OPEB reserved, 632,771. For a grand total of 3,637.
Any questions? Sure.
So I don't know how, the Grafton Water District is structured, if you're allowed to do this. But you got $2 million in cash in the bank. You invested,
Yeah, so it's invested in the Mass Municipal Trust,
and what's the percentage?
get about 5%, maybe
Okay.
4.5%. That's high.
Which is that much?
It's a state-run fund.
Okay.
Town probably has most of their investments in there too, if they have any money.
Any questions on, treasurer's report? Motion to accept. Second.
And we can't go out to a private market, so that's why.
No,
It's okay.
I'm just saying personally, being on money market gives me lots of money, because I got a good rate. And, you know, it all depends what you got in there, you can take half of it, whatever.
Yeah.
As long as you can do it and you're doing it.
Yeah.
That's cool, just give you some revenue.
Yeah, no, we didn't notice our interest income last year.
And the only 2 cents on the
27,000.
previous discussions about the gentleman's discussions is, how many of you are citizens of the town? I know you were, I don't know if you still are. How many of you live here? Oh, cool.
All my life.
Cool.
Mine too.
Cool. So, so you're 2 people, 3 people who have a vested interest.
57 years worth.
So,
Plus.
yeah, so,
Just to give you a little history.
I know who you are.
Fire department, retired firefighter.
South Grafton, Biddy Ball, I remember you from years ago. So, the question really is you're all talking about, should we do 10% this, 50% this? Or should we go back in history? Should we only deal with these types of people? How about asking the citizens what they think? How about getting a group of committee of you know, whatever the number is, but high income, medium income, and low income people? And just get a cross section, because unless you really publicize what you're doing, and so far there isn't a lot of public, which we'll get to later on in the meeting, of publication of what you're doing great and what you're doing not so great, and what you're working on. People really, there's a group of people that don't even know what a website is, don't even have Facebook. So you're talking about these vehicles, but you do have all their mailing lists because they pay their bills. So there's ways of communicating, and not just one way. And that's really part, and again, we'll get into it hopefully much later, but that's really part of the issue. People don't know the great things that you have been doing. But I don't know that with my bill, a 10% freeze, I'm even gonna see or make a difference.
Yeah.
It's really, you know, even a 50% something, whatever you're talking about. Now, to some folks, it's gonna make a difference. Maybe you do a tiered approach, and I don't know. All I'm driving at is you may be giving money away. People wanna know what you're doing. People know what you're doing, not, you know, okay, we feel your pain, so we're gonna give you $27 off on your next bill.
Well,
But that comes from me, who might be in a different financial bracket than somebody who may need $20.
Well, it's a twofold. We're definitely trying to ease the pain a bit, because obviously a bad product went out there. It's like anything else, you buy something, you want a credit or a refund back on the product used, if it's not up to standard. And you're right. We've had issues in the past of getting information out there. We are in the process of redesigning our website. We post a lot of stuff on Facebook. I understand that we're not gonna get to every single user. But we're doing our best to get out there. We've had other meetings that we've put on the internet. When it first started, our approaches of what we've been doing. We've had other open houses, you know, that we've had people come in and check out our facility, the plant, and so on and so forth. We've done a lot to get our message out there.
I've lived in this town 47 years.
Yep.
I know nothing about what you have done until that last infomercial came out. And I'm a bright guy, it was still misleading. So it was wonderful that it came out.
Mhm.
I didn't know that you meet at 7:30, 7:45 in the morning, once a month. You know, all of that stuff, you could say you're doing it, but it ain't working.
Well, see, the
Which
other
is
thing, the other
which
thing
is
too is
part
that
of this whole thing here.
people don't take an interest until there's an issue.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Until they're gonna die,
Well,
until their prostrate explodes
Time out. Can I
from the
get,
plastics.
we recognize exactly what you said.
Yeah.
And what we've done is we've contracted with an outside agency
Yeah.
to do just that, improve our communications.
Yeah.
And we've entered into a contract with them to do just what you're saying, because we've found that people are not being touched by our message. And they need to know what's going on. So again, what was it, the last meeting or the meeting before, we took and spent what, $6,800 to bring in a communications group to do just what you're saying, because we recognize that we have to have that message out there. People have to understand that we're doing everything we can, but we're limited as to what we can do. But one thing we can do
You really gotta
is
stop saying
improve
you're doing
the communication.
what you can do, because we all, every one of us, including citizens who've been passive until the mess hit the fan, you all can do better. You have to take the approach like we're running a business. 'Cause
well,
you
believe me,
are.
believe me.
You are.
Don't have,
You've
let me
gotta do
just
better.
say one thing.
'Cause it's
I've been here for 35 years.
Yes, sir.
And I run this thing like a business and they know it and his dad knows it. And my goal was to leave this place debt free, which was a year ago, and we had about $1.5 million worth of debt. And we've done $10 million worth of improvements since I've been here. And most of that's been on connection fees for new services. And the state and federal government decided to put $53 million in our pocket if debt. And the thing I find here is, again, nobody voices an opinion. Where have you been for 35 years? I've never, no, let me just
I'll tell you
be
exactly where I've
rude.
been. I
No.
knew no idea
Right.
anything about the Grafton water.
There's still
Excuse me, I
people-
was here 3 years ago when we had brown water at Sunrise and then my pipe exploded
I
in
know.
the street
But
and I
people,
paid on both ends,
people
but it's
still,
okay. I
people still
took it
think
as a
we're a
citizen.
water company. We put out newsletters when I first came here every quarter for about 5 or 6 years. And we've done the mailings with, we do an annual statistical report.
Yeah.
That we used to mail every year, and we get one phone call about, now this is 4,600 mailings. Now, finally, the state allowed us to do it on a website, so we're not spending $10,000 to mail it. So there just isn't, I mean, I've been here 35 years, we have an annual meeting just like the town, and in 35 years, this is how many people have come. We passed $2.8 million of budget in 5 minutes. And you know why people don't come here? Because their water's been clean, and it comes out of the faucet. Why are they here now? Because it's shit. And
They
believe
are
me,
counting on you and paying their taxes and paying their water bill so that it is clean, so they don't have to worry about
Exactly.
it. That's why you're all on the board and you took the responsibility. You know, it's, it's not blame, it's not
Right, so
same old, same
like
old.
Ken said, we hired a consultant.
Yeah.
And they gave us this menu.
Yeah.
And was started with the quick things, which
Yeah.
was the brochure for our open house and the redesign of the
Somebody
website.
sent it to me.
Yeah, the redesign of the
Yeah,
website.
thanks.
Then we're gonna look at other communications, and I agree with you 100%. But there's there's 90% of the people don't care.
Well, they care, but they
Well,
don't.
the water
They
comes out of
don't
their
know,
faucet.
they don't
it's,
know until they have to.
You know, I mean, yeah, but it's just, you know, we've
I
had
feel your
commissioners
pain. I
meetings.
do feel your pain, I
We-
really
We've
do.
had them at 7
I've
o'clock
been
at
blind
night.
copying lots of folks, all my buddies.
Yep.
Unfortunately, not one of them are here with me.
Exactly.
And they're all saying, Artie, you go, man, thanks for carrying the ball into the end zone. And that's fine, I mean, I enjoy it, but. that's-
Like Andy with town meeting. I mean, how many people? There's 16,000 people in this town and 150 of them go to town meeting.
Well, until
22,000.
there's a real issue that affects lots of people's lives, and that's America. That's America, we can look at the last
Mr.
election, how many
Chairman.
people showed up.
Anyways, you know where I'm coming from.
I do,
We're trying.
I understand you're trying.
Go ahead, Lydia.
You have a forgotten segment of your customer base. And their representative is sitting right here. The senior citizens in town,
Don't point,
both of us, we belong.
yeah.
We belong. And we're of the generation that was watching the sewage come down Worcester Street into the lake.
Hmm.
And we remember those town meetings. The seniors who are on a very constrained budget, who don't have anything to do with Facebook, they don't know jack shit about this. And this man could go in there and talk to groups of people, couple of days a week, make an announcement through Shannon, and get these people up to speed, because A, they still vote, and B, they still pay their bills. Some of them, how long is the list, I wonder, waiting to get into senior housing? So some of them are, they're really in the squeeze. I may be in the squeeze pretty soon.
They should get the waiver.
Well, we actually, when we did increase the rates the first time, we added, a category, which is the lowest usage category. And so we could impact the elderly at a minimum.
Yeah, we didn't change it.
We didn't change it for up until this year, so that we didn't impact them when we had to increase the
They're in
rates.
a separate category, billing
We
wise.
still have that category, so
And
they're
recognition
impacted
of that.
You must have missed my birthday, because I don't think I had any.
You're too young.
No, it wasn't senior citizen, it was.
I've been in the same house for 53 years, but I'm not a
It
townie.
didn't go by age
Yeah, you
of the
are.
people in the home, it went by the amount of water that you use.
Yeah.
So 3,000 gallons per quarter,
You get the minimum, you would always get the minimum rate, and so,
not this trip.
well, because of, yeah, but that's.
Yeah.
Something different, but for regular usage, it impacted them from a minimum perspective.
Yeah.
But we're moving forward with communication.
That's
efforts,
right.
so.
Yeah, I mean, there's this new company we're working with, they have texting ability, for example. And what, I've been here 10 years, and I find that since, over the last 10 years, the primary communication, as far as the phone is a cell phone. So that's the best way to communicate, at least notifying people quickly that there's something going on, or refer them to our website or whatever. I used to live in town, lived here for 30 years. I now live in Spencer.
Yeah.
But that's what they use. They use the texting ability to notify me of different things. And that works really well, because everybody's got their cell phone, everybody's getting text. And even though we can't make it detailed, we could refer them to our website, to provide more detail.
It has to be a multi-layered
Yes,
communication
yes, yes.
system. It needs to be electronic signs. There was one at the middle
Yeah, we
school
did.
during the election. Who owns that electronic?
We own
sign?
one.
So get it out there and say, please, water department updates, go to this site. And then, whatever it is, and quite frankly, you may not need a $6,800
Well, we do.
communicate, all I'm driving
Yeah,
at.
that's true.
There's plenty of citizens in town
No doubt.
that have the expertise or not. might be willing to, all I'm driving at, it's gotta be multi-level, not just a mailing. It's just not one thing.
Anne Marie, yes,
Yeah, thank you, sorry, and I'm just gonna interject, I have to go to work, I
Yep,
can't be
I get
here depending on how long this, so I was wondering on the reverse 911, if you guys ever took advantage of that after the last meeting?
We have in the past, the problem is, it's limited to how much you can put on it, so we can't really get out a lengthy message.
Okay, but I
You
did
know,
talk to
and-
Evan after the last meeting and confirmed that, you know, the town is more than willing to do whatever, even if it's just, to your point, it just can be a refer to a
We
website.
used to pay for that too. I always like to throw these
So-
things out to people.
so
We
Matt,
used to
I-
contribute to that.
Okay.
One of the problems we've had with that is if somebody doesn't pick up their phone,
Okay, but just like a yes or no, you guys
Yeah,
didn't do
yeah.
that after.
no,
the last
we're
meeting.
aware of it.
Okay.
It's just not the best mechanism.
So
for the
and what I'm
long
hearing from you, and I know Matt, you know, I'm here for a bit, but, you know, when Ken brings up reaching out to the state relative to these chlorine numbers, and I understand perhaps they're gonna come back with a no, but that pushback saying, you know, why even do it? It's like the reverse 911. Well, why even do it? Because we can wait until XYZ. I just think that there should be a bit of a sense of urgency that even if you are reaching out to the state, and in fact, they are pushing back and saying, no, the chlorine level is going to be XYZ per EPA standards, et cetera, at least that would be another bit of information that you could put out that, yes, we tried this. We did the email, took us 3 seconds, got the email back, and here we are. So I just could, you know,
so,
to push you a little bit more to not so much say, well, yeah, we can do that, maybe we'll do that. Let's, you know, actually do something.
I agree with you 100%, and I think sometimes in wherever you work, whether it's for a town, whether it's for a business, whether it's for whatever, you get institutionalized on your ways of doing things. And I agree with you 100% on doing something different than what we've done in the past. I know that we can't say, and there's a lot of other things, you know, for further discussion down the road that, well, we've never done it that way. Well, you're right. So let's try it. It might work. It might not work. And yes, the reverse 911, I get it. Getting it, you know, updating our website, absolutely. Changing practices and procedures and the way we do things, absolutely. It's a whole mix of things to try and get us to that next level. You know, we've been very fortunate throughout the years. We've had minor issues, minor problems. This one is not, and no fault of our own. You know, obviously water breaks we can't control. Mandates we can't control, but we need to be that one step ahead. And we need it for, you know, for ourselves. We need it for our users. We need it for the way we do business. And yes, but, you know, I've had a conversation with Evan in passing, and he's like, use the system. I don't even care, basically. So yes, we can use that if we have to.
Okay.
The signboard, you know, we can use that more. In fact, I completely even forgot we had a signboard, to tell you the truth. So yes, you know, we can use that more.
Okay.
I agree with you.
I think just my greater, those are just kind of two little
Yep.
instances, but my greater message would be, you know, again, the response was lacking initially. And I completely understand that you guys were dealing with a new variable and trying to figure that out in terms of a operational side of things. So you weren't really worried so much about maybe marketing, right? Or getting the message out, but now here we sit. And I just think that there's some importance in trying to utilize all these things. And when little things come up, like a 10% push out on my bill, whatever it is, that again, highlighting that and making sure that that info, I guess, is getting to folks. And so I'll just, because I have to go, I think also what might be beneficial, particularly after you sent out that two-sided card, which just recently at a planning board meeting that I was at, people were bringing it and waving it, not in a positive way, by the way. Perhaps you might consider having some sort of person come in that has knowledge in relative to PFAS and just doing some sort of a, whether it be on GCTV, or maybe you do an open house with somebody with authority relative to this specific, you know, item. Not myself, not you guys necessarily, but someone out there that really knows about PFAS, because I did get a call and spoke to some residents after that one pager, and it did kind of it read like, ooh, red flags, right? So I just think perhaps given that PFAS is going to be an issue for the next couple of years, for not just this town, but for everyone, maybe having someone with some really great background in that respect to come in and speak to us about, well, by the way, those pants that you're wearing are full of it, so that type of information, sorry. And maybe that could be done in conjunction. You mentioned the open house. For me, the open house, really, I knew about it because I was here at a couple of meetings, but I didn't see anything about that, like leading up to it, until I think like the night before. So maybe just doing, maybe, in my opinion, a better push if you were to do that again, and then perhaps do it in conjunction with someone that can speak to the PFAS issue. Just FYI on the insurance claim, you do get flagged a bit. I've had 2 cars ram into a telephone pole outside of my house over the last 5 years. I was asleep when it happened, had nothing to do with me, right? And yet my insurance company, when I tried to switch, it is something. Maybe it doesn't increase your rate, but it puts you at a higher risk category when they see previous claims, whether they're related to you or not. So just to make sure that information is going out there correctly. And just on a personal note, my daughter has been sick since mid-August, or late August, I'd say. She just went to the doctor again last night, trying to figure out what's going on with her. She's lost 25 pounds unexpectedly. I can't, neither of us can relate this to what's going on in our town, but there's a potential that if that could be the cause, who knows? So again, just knowing that you're not hearing all of it, and that what everyone's going on, what's going on in their homes, whether they've lost a load of laundry, they've lost a washing machine, etc. It's a big thing for individual customers. So just not to poo-poo that, oh, we can just do 10%, we could just do 50%. Do what you can, and then let us all know and put it out there. And just realize that it really, you're right. I'm paying for a product, whether you say to me, you can bathe and drink this water, doesn't matter to me at the end of the day, right? So I appreciate the $60 rebate thing, and that's something. But I think that you guys have to look at this as, this is a big problem for our town. And you as a water district got onto this board, and here you are. It's just like being on select board. It can be all roses and sunshine until it's not. And then you still have to be there and react and really be responsive to the community. So thanks for your time.
Thank you. Oh, I appreciate you
Can I
calling.
amend what Anne Marie just said? These 3 gentlemen know all about PFAS. They were on the fire department. They may get cancer someday like the guys in Worcester. And they're dropping like flies.
14 years on a fire department.
Which we didn't know anything about that until recently.
Nobody did
And just like the,
until the brown stuff.
just
hit
like
the
up until
cattle.
2 years ago, we weren't required to test.
Groundwater and that's, yeah, they're usually exclusive.
Well, only because we had to do a pilot study.
But one isn't the cause and effect of each other.
PFAS is not the cause of the problem.
Yeah, the 2 completely different.
Good.
Separate
And I
items.
think that's important for people to know, because there's ignorance out there.
Yeah, the only reason they're connected is because we had to do the pilot study for the PFAS, and it raised our manganese, which is now
Yeah.
reacting with the
And of course, you need a lawyer to make sure you're saying the right thing.
Exactly,
Come
yeah.
back to you.
You're afraid to say something sometimes.
Well, you
because
have
it's
to,
like,
so you're just.
I would just interject that first 2-page thing that you chose to send out spoke primarily about PFAS and.
well, that's what it was,
Yeah.
that was
Okay,
all
but just
written by the
FYI.
DEP.
Yeah, yes, I
We just
understand.
put our name on it, and they said, this is what you have to send out, put your name on it.
Right, but again, not to discount, so there's a difference between the groundwater and the PFAS, but what was sent out to everybody was relative to the PFAS.
I have since taken that document because of the feedback from our customers that it was very confusing and organized it slightly different than it was so that it would be clear to people on what the real issue was and what caused it, what we're doing about it. And so it's a little bit better on our website,
Mhm.
with the rebate form. So hopefully that clarifies it a little bit for people.
And a lot of that is mandatory language, and
Yeah.
that language gets.
How come it wasn't sent to the Sages and the school department, which is, and.
It was sent to everybody.
No, it said right on it, this was not sent.
It said may not have been sent, but it's because, it goes to every, so I did that. And it's called an EDDM, every door drop man.
Perfect, okay.
Okay, so there's no specific address or anything. It's just everybody in Grafton, everybody in North Grafton. And then we have a subset of, South Grafton that we also service, so I choose routes based on the areas that we service. So everybody that gets something from the post office
Perfect, okay.
got that letter. Now, I spoke to somebody yesterday who didn't even look at it, just threw it. But I gave her another one, so it's, some people, they get these piles of mails. I'm the same person, I have my piles of mails that I look at once a week, and so, but everybody did get it. even the school.
Just as a note of interest, I'd like to thank the members of the Board of Selectmen for coming. This is a town issue. They've been here continually while we've been going through this process. They're taking their time and they're showing their interest in the town, just as we are, to try and come up with a solution. So, we're not in this by ourselves. It's a town-wide, if you will, effort to try and come to some positive resolution in the interim until we get the new filtration system of a new plant up. And again, we can run as fast and as hard as we can, but if the state keeps on saying, this is it, and the feds keep on saying, this is it, that's it.
Yeah.
But
I'll be.
thank you to both of you.
I'll be personally.
Excuse me?
I'll be personally carrying the ball to get the state involved. We'll get the state involved, Ken. I will.
Okay.
Okay, and I'm working my tail off to get all the departments and the town integrated into this, because it affects the health, seniors.
Understood. That's
So I mean, I will, just know, I will carry that ball as a citizen, because this can't be solved by 6 people. It just can't be. Because you're hitting roadblocks and we're only capable of so many contacts, of so many knowledges, and you need help. Whether you want it or not.
Now you know why your neighbors sent you. Because you know what?
I got a meeting.
We have had good cooperation from the town. We've worked with Evan. They've worked with other departments.
I don't see anybody
Anything
here
we
but
can do to make a better situation, we're trying to do. And I just wanted to have people recognize
Yeah.
that it's not just us that are working on this. The whole town is working on this, and it's a problem that we have to deal with. The question is, how successful can we be? And the most success is going to be when we have the new filtration plant. But until then, Annie, get your gun.
All right, let's,
We have a lot to do.
let's continue.
Run into other meetings.
SPC report?
I'll go through this quick. Pilot study on Worcester Street. It just started up last week. We had met a couple of weeks ago, or a week ago, went over procedure and what we're gonna do. That'll run about 9 weeks, and hopefully we'll have an answer to how we can treat the PFAS out of that. Let's see. The state request to extend the Follette Street pumping for the next 5 to 7 years. All the information's been submitted. Now it's in the state's hand, and we're hoping to get a response from them within 2 to 4 months. They have to take public comment. We notified, I don't know how many abutters.
Yeah, I forget how many.
One of the concerns over at East Street is the size of the PFAS building, and because we're in the floodplain there, I'm just bringing this to your attention. It may be difficult to go through the regulatory process, but we realized they were designing the plant for a little bit more water than what we actually pump over there, so they're gonna downsize the building a little and see if it fits in the footprint a little bit better. One of our customers, I believe, had talked about, whether or not we should buy water from Worcester instead of going through all of this $53 million worth of improvements. I did talk to Worcester. They said the likelihood of them supplying us with 3 million gallons a day for eternity would pretty much be, would probably never happen. They suggested I contact Auburn Water District. I know the person that's the manager over there, talked to them. They've been in the process of trying to get water out of Worcester for 10 years, and they're finally coming to hopefully a conclusion, and that's only gonna be on an emergency basis. Shrewsbury's in line also to try to get water out of Worcester, and that's never gone anywhere.
Could it be
The
a
other
short-term
thing,
solution, 2 years until the population's done?
no, it would take us, the city council just is not in the. They don't want to give away their water. They've got their own problems. I guess is what I was told in the background.
Yeah.
The other thing is, if we did buy water from them, we would have to abandon all of our sources and never use them unless
Oh,
we went back through the whole testing process of a new well, and then we'd have to do PFAS treatment anyways. So to abandon $10 to $20 million worth of capital improvements that we've already done would probably be pretty ridiculous. So I think that puts that to bed in my eyes.
Yeah, no, I agree, I agree.
But I was asked to look into that, and plus, the other thing would be handcuffed to their rates forever too. So we were handcuffed in the beginning 40 years ago to Mass American Water Company, and that's why we have a water district now, so.
that'd be a nightmare.
Let's see. So now that we don't have a manager's position, and it's different kind of hierarchy within the organization, hiring and dismissal of any employees should be voted on at some point by the Board of Water Commissioners. Now, obviously, you only meet once a month. So my recommendation would be is in a hiring process, which we're going through one right now for an assistant office manager. If the superintendent, the business manager, and the office manager have a candidate, and it's gonna take 3 weeks before the next commissioners meeting, I would recommend that the chairperson be appointed to review and pick a recommendation so that they could hire that person, and then it be ratified at the next commissioners meeting. So, does everybody agree with that? And if so, I would request a vote.
Ken,
Okay,
you good with it?
Okay,
So we'll take a vote on that as stated by Matt, basically.
motion moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Matt, before you continue with the employee organizational chart, the exempt, non-exempt, and so on, among possible classification of job descriptions, can we table that?
Yep.
And can we also have a workshop on that
Yep.
for all of us to discuss while we're here to kind of fine tune positions in the organization, responsibilities, and so on?
Yeah, I have no problem with that.
All right. Yeah. I think that's something that we gotta sit down and kind of go through it page by page. You know, what the administration, office administration is doing, what positions superintendent has, the second, the operations, operational people. We need to do a big checks and balance on that, I feel. So I'd like to,
Want to do it some morning? Same as we've been doing the commissioners meeting, or,
mornings are,
I mean, it would be like
I-
an hour, just take just 1 hour and move on, or,
yeah, I mean, if we can do that, or we can do it in the afternoon sometime since you're around also.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't know what's that, well,
yeah. I
is
mean,
that for you in the morning, Bob, like
Well,
7:30
that
to
would follow
8:30?
to the organizational chart. Hold that also for that roundtable discussion.
yeah, everything. Yeah, go right through it, fine tune, again, responsibilities, everything, top to bottom, basically.
I would just need to know which morning, that's all.
We put out a couple dates, picture a couple dates,
What morning work for you, Bob?
Mondays and Tuesdays are tough for
Okay,
mornings.
Thursday, the 21st.
Thursdays are better. You- Friday afternoons work.
I mean,
It's only, only an hour.
yeah, I mean, a Friday afternoon might be better off because it's the end of the day and if we have to spend more time on it, we would have to spend more time on it.
Yeah,
So I'm,
I'm the only one with flexibility. You
what
guys
Friday
have to-
afternoon are you looking at?
Hang on.
You can do that.
Any of them.
Wanna do-
You don't do this Friday? Is that too soon?
It's Friday the
Nope.
15th.
I'm gonna say yes.
What time, 3 or 2?
I would do, 3 o'clock. 3:15, right around that point.
15th.
Okay. 15. He's 15.
This Friday.
3 o'clock?
Yeah, 3, give or take.
I think I'm available.
Would you do this Friday? Yes.
And that's also for Dave, for Adam. Yeah, so I mean, let's look at everything.
Just try to look at those and if you can think of any comments
Yeah.
before.
I also have, a couple things too from, and I gotta figure out how to, I'll either send them to Dave, Adam, or Sharon, or the districts.
Yep.
And so we can print those out and kind of review those too.
Yep.
So we'll look at that
I mean,
also.
a lot of towns hire these consultants to do it and I don't think it's worth the money.
I think,
They just use a boilerplate.
I think we can change things there's not that much to change. It's just, we just got a tweak of how we're doing things.
Yeah.
And I think once we tweak it, it's gonna make things better for everyone, communication wise within the organization. Outside the organization and so on, responsibilities, whether it's, testing, whether it's backflows, whatever. Just a responsibility of what is in everybody's description and what everybody's responsible for.
Yep.
And I think that'll help everybody down the road. So yeah, we'll do that on this Friday. 3 o'clock. If there's any issues with anybody, let us know immediately and then we'll have to come up with another date or a following Friday, but let's try that.
I'll put out an invite when this is all done and everybody can respond to
Yeah.
it. And that way, if someone does have a problem, they just respond to it. That way,
Yeah.
everybody will know right away.
Yep. All right.
Okay, I got one last thing.
Yep.
Sharon's gonna be retiring on January 31st. We're in the process of interviewing and getting some resumes in for the assistant office position. That's going well. I think Melissa did phone interviews.
She's done all the first interviews and we're ready to schedule second set of interviews, which would be an in-office person, interview, probably a group of people.
So Sharon and I have been working on, her exit strategy. Out the door. No. And one of the things that has come up is we had instituted a sick time buyback program a few years ago, similar to the town of Grafton. And that program is basically if you had 20 years of service and you've reached the age of 55 years old, you were reimbursed for a percentage of your sick time that you didn't use. The program is basically an incentive not to use your sick days and accumulate them and be productive. And Sharon has done that. Her issue all along is that she's only got 10 years of service because she's never going to stay here for 20 years because she'll be 39 at that point. You get that, not you.
No.
Well,
Oh, yeah. I was ready to say.
I wasn't gonna say the age.
Just say yes.
So even though she hasn't asked for this, even though she's kind of mentioned it in the past, I think just as an incentive to her, maybe the program needs to be looked at a little differently and, because she can never get her 20 years, even though she's done 10 years, she hasn't abused her sick time. I certainly would like to give her an equivalent of the 10 years, whether that be 100% or 50%, I'll leave that up to discussion.
I'd move that we endorse Matt's recommendation, make an exception to the personnel rules and grant the extension of the retirement benefit. To Sharon.
So Matt, what is the percentage of 20 years?
So I believe you can get a maximum of 120 days of sick time accrued. You're allowed to get 33% of that. So theoretically,
At 20 years, so 20 years
20
and
years.
above, it's 33%.
right, so you would be able to cash in 40 days, let's say. 40, 80, 120, yes, 40 days. At your highest paid rate during your employment.
So at 10 years,
10 years, it would
be half.
you could do that. You
No,
could,
20 years would be 33%.
right.
Yeah.
So if you go 10 years, it would be half of 33%.
So,
And the thing is, that Sharon's been here to help us modernize the office. And, institute new programs, billing wise.
Yep.
Notification wise.
Yep.
And she's been on top of it all this time. That's what we initially hired her for. She's done that very well. And I think it should be recognized with this recommendation.
I'm throwing a number out there. So, and this is something that we should probably adopt for the future too. If 20 years is 33%, 10 years should be half of that. Now, if a person is, 18, 19 years, close to it, yeah, one way or another. Absolutely appreciate everything she's done, but at the 10-year mark, I feel that it should be half of the 33%.
And I'm not sure that will ever come up, but if it does, we'll deal with it at that point.
So my recommendation would be, whatever half of 33 is, I'm going right.
2165.
Well, didn't you say it was 40 days for 33%,
Yeah,
so
that
it would
would
be 20
so
days?
20 days.
Yeah.
So that would be my recommendation. Now, I'll put that in a motion. If you want to vote on that or you want to change that's fine too.
Do I have to amend the motion? Amend the motion?
Go ahead, just,
I make a motion where you grant,
the exception.
the exception, for, 120 days times, basically 20 days of, sick time buyback.
Second.
That makes sense?
Yep.
Okay. All right, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, guys.
Welcome.
Can't be sick for the next 6 months.
So don't drink the water.
So basically, yeah.
You're also
20 days,
bringing a car.
20 days at 10,
Yeah.
40 days at 20 and above. All right,
That's all I got.
Mm-hmm.
cybersecurity update. Business managers report, I guess.
Well, that's actually gonna be me, because I'm the one that's been working on the cybersecurity stuff, so, just a little bit of history, cybersecurity requirements. I'm gonna define cybersecurity if it's not obvious to people. It's basically security that protects you from getting cyber attacks. And you can get cyber attacks, they're gonna go through your computer or your network or whatever, but it includes also physical protection of your computer. So if it includes also making sure your doors are locked and protected and people can't get in without security codes and things like that. So that's kind of the scope of it. And then the other question is, so why do we care, right? We're just a small little organization out there, right? Well, we care because one is the DEP is now mandating that we implement it. Not even that, Homeland Security is mandating it. And our insurance liability, Maya, it requires it as well. So as a result of that, which started about 2 years ago, we've implemented some things. Go to the next section. We have done some things. For example, we upgraded our Office 365 licenses. So it's called the business premium license, which also provides protection not only on email, but also on all the devices that people are using. So it kind of checks things out, makes sure that we're not being, monitored and well, it's good, but it could be a lot better. And then we implement alarm systems both at the office as well as East Street. We need to expand that to all of the buildings. We also, we used to have what's called an air gap solution, which really does protect you 100% from being attacked, but you can't be connected to the internet. And it did limit the ability for operators to support SCADA or monitor SCADA remotely. So to provide the best protections possible, we implemented a VPN implementation from our SCADA system, which is our main system, to the office. And nobody can connect to our SCADA system, but they can connect to the office. So there's a VPN connection to do that. Plus it's on a Sonic routers, which are probably one of the best firewalls in the industry. So we've done that. And then we implemented, before you could just walk up to the SCADA system and do what you needed to do. Now there's just password protection. And we know who's doing it if anything happens. So I'm trying to go through this quickly because I know we don't have a lot of time. So what happened in August was the DEP, they kind of delayed our, for those that don't know, a sanitary survey, a DEP sanitary survey is basically the DEP comes in here and audits us across the board, audits our distribution system, our treatment system, our operations, everything. Well, they added cybersecurity this past audit. I was able to delay that a little bit by volunteering for a cybersecurity audit. And it was pretty impressive. Actually, I had the Homeland Security cybersecurity expert here, the state police cybersecurity expert here, and then DEP has hired their own. That guy was there. So there was some pretty good knowledge in here about cybersecurity, and they went through and they audited everything and gave us a list of recommendations. There was like 38 items in 5 categories. What they focus on is identifying the threat, identifying what you have, and then what are your vulnerabilities, kind of an assessment, and then protecting, of course, critical assets and critical infrastructure. Then the other piece of that is putting detection systems in your environment to check to see if you're being monitored, because a lot of people can get through and you don't even know they're there. And just for everybody's surveys at the same place, the biggest concern of Homeland Security, and you hear about it in the news all the time, is China. Because China has like 1 or 2 companies out there that focus on getting into our systems, infiltrating our critical infrastructures, which includes electricity and water. And then at some point in time, when there's a conflict in the Pacific and they want to get our attention, basically shutting us down. And that is something that's being done all over the country. And that's probably the biggest worry of Homeland Security right now. So implementing detection systems to see if you are being monitored. Also implementing procedures so you know how to respond if you are attacked. Because even though we put in all these measures, you still have a chance of getting attacked. But having a procedure in place so you can recover quickly and just basically get rid of the threat. And then just document. So it's really making sure that you're protected as well as you can be. If you get attacked, make sure you got a procedure in place to fix it. And then also documenting those procedures so everybody knows, and then testing it too. Here's a good example that we're terrible at, I'll admit it. We do all these backups, which I've been doing them for years, right? To make sure that if we ever did get attacked, we could recover quickly. We've got to test it. Just a simple thing like that to make sure you can test is, just one of the things they recommend. So after they went through, they came back with an action plan for us, which is great. We've implemented some of those things. But my plan to go forward, because the DEP is going to come back and audit us in our next sanitary survey. They gave us 2 years to get everything implemented. And then, so from the recommendation list, we had 38 items. I went through and I analyzed, what are the low hanging fruits, right? Low cost, low complexity, high impact. There were 21 out of 38 of those items that were, that we could do, low hanging fruit. So that means not a lot of money, but we could get them implemented, mostly just, labor, you know, getting us in place. Then there were 14 that were kind of middle of the road, medium to high cost, complexity, as well as the impact wasn't that great, medium to high. And then 3 of them were kind of costly, complex, low to medium impact. So I kind of broke it all down by that. So my recommendation for the water district is that Kevin Whitman, he's what I call my IT guy. We kind of outsource that, the real difficult stuff he does for me. So he and I kind of went through the whole list and identified what I would do, what he would do. And I asked him to give me an estimate, what he thought would take to do the low hanging fruit. And he said probably about 6,500 over the next, and my thought was we would do that this fiscal year. Focus on that, get those things done, because that's, you know, over 50% of the issues. And then for our budgeting purposes, for FY 26 and FY 27, implement the more costly items and more complex items. That's my recommendation to you guys. And we could provide a lot more detail, you know, I've got a whole list, and if you want to hear it, or we could give you an update at each meeting as to how far, what we've done and the things that we've implemented, stuff like that.
Are there any items that need to be discussed in a executive session? Under-
No, we just killed you afterwards.
Well, I don't, that's why I didn't mention a lot of the detail, you know. That was one of the things, the report I got from them, basically anybody reading that report needs to sign a non-disclosure.
It's like when the state asked us to put up signs near our well that said water protection area, so everybody knew where our wells were. We thought that was a great idea.
Well, yeah.
So, yeah, there are.
Government, this is government. Put a sign at the end of your road that says you're near a wells, you're near a public water supply, be careful. Here's the well.
So Shannon, what action do we need to take like now?
Well, I think, what we're looking for is the approval to do the short-term low-hanging fruit, because it is a cost that wasn't budgeted for, but it could be absorbed by existing budgets.
Yeah, I think that's doable. Right off the
Yeah,
bat.
the 6,500,
Oh, yeah, the business, from budget standpoint, that 65 can be absorbed.
right. And then, long-term for FY 26 and FY 27, incorporate cybersecurity activity, the more costly items.
Yeah,
Some of that stuff can go right into the PFAS treatment plant.
Good point, yeah.
Because we're gonna be building the new plants, and then we can put in the contracts, any of those kind of upgrades, so.
and just to have an idea of what Kevin's thinking for cost, he's obviously the low hanging fruit stuff, he's got a number on, but just an idea for the other stuff over the next couple of years would be
Yes.
helpful.
Right, yeah, absolutely,
I would say prices for the 26 and 27, a little more detail.
yeah.
And also I would double check, since the PFAS treatment plants, like you were saying, some of the stuff can be incorporated into that. Is the EPA willing to, or DEP willing to give us a grace on time to get those done?
Yeah, I think so. They're
Yeah.
gonna, this is gonna be a big issue for everybody, especially the little departments.
I'd probably even say we're way ahead.
Yeah.
Compared to all the water departments, we are more proactive on this than we've been on
That's
anything.
right. Yeah, that's what they asked me to attend a cybersecurity panel a couple weeks ago, because we are one of the first people that have actually taken this and driven it, you know, move quickly. And that's the other point is, like, some of the requirements or recommendations out of here is all of your vendor contracts and your bids incorporate cybersecurity requirements as part of those bids. So it's a way of us rethinking how we get things implemented.
Yeah,
You know?
sometimes we have the engineer come in and he sits down on his laptop because he's talking to you about something. Oh, I just want to show you the plans that I got on here. He goes, what's your password? And, you know, you log into a computer that's got a virus on it and all of a sudden you're doomed.
Yeah,
You know, so it's as simple as that.
Yeah, I've moved to implement the cybersecurity update, short-term and long-term as recommended.
Second.
Do we need a number on that for
No, because we don't know.
No, what I'm saying is cost wise, we have to. add that.
Long-term,
Long-term, yes.
Long term,
No,
I'm saying short term.
The short term, we have that number of 65, we can absorb
But we
that.
can-
in the
all right.
budget.
Well, that's why I left it
Yeah,
short
yeah,
term,
no,
long
that's
term.
fine.
So you can.
Yeah.
That's fine.
And then when we do the budgets for FY 26, 27, just incorporate that as a line item,
Yeah.
as a warrant item.
We can also keep an eye on, which there currently isn't one that we fall under, but we can also keep an eye on grants, but because they do grants for,
Perfect.
through the DEP and EPA for this type of stuff, especially, and they're along with PFAS.
right now they're for underprivileged communities.
No, actually, I went to this
Self-drafted.
meeting on couple weeks ago, and there is another organization offering grants up to 25,000 without those requirements in place. So there is feasible that we could get a grant to help support this.
Well, I think we should apply for anything that is
Yeah.
Right.
possible.
Because then
out
it
there.
won't affect our
Yeah, I
budget
mean-
that we've already got
I
issues
mean, we
with.
get it, great, we don't, well, then we don't.
Yeah.
If it's out there, we
Yeah,
should
what's the
apply.
percentage?
Yep, I agree.
Plus they make you.
All right, as Ken stated, all in favor? All
I,
right, carried.
it just says mad no. That's why she been awarded.
Thank you, guys. I really appreciate the support and recognition.
No problem.
I'm not in the state.
All right. Superintendent's report.
Tim. I still don't have Catachio started, October 28th, new employee, no previous water experience. But seems to be very interested, very, liking the job, so
You do the paperwork already in my mind, so.
he, have good rapport with him so far. He's out, learning the ropes like.
Now, you want them to ratify that hire, or what, did they vote on that last time? I can't remember.
What was that?
Have them just ratify the hiring? Did we?
I think we voted on that the last one.
What was that? Was that
I don't
Taylor?
look back.
I know Taylor, they voted officially.
We actually, on the minutes.
Did you do it with Tim?
I don't know if we did do it for Tim.
So,
I think I said
oh,
I had.
there's no operator interview.
Oh, yeah, I read it off, yes. Professionally.
All right, so we have to, all
Just provided that he actually
Did
passed
that.
his drug test and he did.
right, so we just have to ratify it then?
Yeah.
All right, so, motion on the table to ratify Tim's employment. So moved. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Okay.
All right, hydro flushing, has helped. It's not the end all cure all, but, I've reached out to a number of people who had really bad issues with the water and, they have said that it has gotten better. It's intermittent now. Like right now, we're dealing with up on Airport Road for some reason. I don't know why. We had a guy out all weekend up there trying to flush hydrants, and I just got another email from a woman today on Bedford Drive, so we're gonna go up and see if we can't, something like, what was that? Yeah. I think so. But anyway, there's no really rhyme or reason. The only thing we can think of is somebody could have used a hydrant over the weekend without telling us, which would stir up the water especially depending on where it is, if it's in a dead end or something like that, so. And like I said, we have very limited the use of Worcester Street. In fact, we're planning on, other than it's in the middle of a pilot study right now, but that water is not being pumped into the system. But, unless we absolutely need it, we're not gonna use it. So potentially, next summer, we'll see. We do have we've got a water restriction in place, so if we do have to use it, hopefully we won't be nearly how we had to use it last year. So, like I said, the second pilot study is going on. That's gonna take probably another 7 or 8 weeks. I think it's a total of 9.
Hopefully it'll be done soon.
We don't use, leak detection is ongoing. We have had a lot of leaks with our hydrants that we flushed, but that's common when you use a hydrant that, doesn't get used that often. So we're just going around and fixing, getting them to stop leaking before winter time, and we have to get them fixed, we get them repaired. PFAS notice went out October 31st, which everybody knows about. We did have the rebate form for the people in the sensitive category, pregnant, nursing, immune disorders, Sharon has worked extensively on that with Melissa to get that, so everybody can get it relatively easily accessible. If not, they can always come in the office and get a form. We did put the non-essential water use, ban as part of our, being able to use Follett Street more than we normally do, per the DEP regulations. We have to come up with some kind of first, second, third offense fines, because we've never really had water restrictions before, other than, well, Matt would be able to tell you more than I could. We've never had water restrictions before. So it's just something we have to sit down and talk about. I don't know if you want to do that today, if you want to do it like a roundtable type of thing.
Well, I mean, we should act on this like, now, ASAP, absolutely. I mean, my feelings are that, obviously, first offense, warning, no doubt, whether it's, a letter sent, a phone call,
Well, it
whatever.
should be a written.
Or written,
We'll have a
yeah,
form.
a form saying that, please, whatever the form may state, discontinue,
A written warning.
written,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
I would say deliver it to the people.
Deliver to the people, or however it needs to be done, that needs to
Handle
be
it
done,
in front
right?
door.
So there's a couple avenues you can go to. You can go, you can go a 3-step program, you can go a 2-step program. I myself, I'm just gonna use the police as an example. You get pulled over, you get a warning. You get pulled over for the same thing. They're not gonna say, well, we'll give you just this much. They're just gonna give you what you did. I myself, I would go warning 500 as the fine. That's my own personal feeling,
How much again?
500
500.
Second occurrence.
for a second.
Ken, Steve,
We're serious about it, Ken.
I know we're serious, but.
I
That'll
mean,
get people's attention.
Yeah,
We went through this exercise of pumping more water, and getting DP approval, and they say you gotta put a water ban in with restrictions and penalties and stuff like that. And you know what? I think 500 is fair. Okay, but the condition is this, it's gotta be witnessed by one of the operators, okay? If you've got a neighbor who doesn't like the other neighbor, and they take a phony picture and send it in, I get that kind of bullshit all the time in my work. I says, unless I see it directly, or you give me evidence that I can use in front of a judge, I'm not touching it. Okay, so if somebody calls it in, one of the guys goes up and witnesses it, takes a photograph of it, $500 fine.
That has been the practice of the operators too, is I'm doing, Bob's house for a meter and I look outside, it's 1 o'clock in the afternoon and someone's watering. Off it goes via email to the office.
Yeah, and
How did I know, how would I have known that there's a water ban? That, and that there's gonna be a fine? I mean, how was I notified?
we publicized it.
Where? I mean, how did I get that?
It was on Facebook.
Whether I got it and I didn't pay attention, I don't know. I didn't know that the water ban.
The fines,
Except Matt Orman had one on his Facebook.
the
First
fines,
warning.
the fines have not been publicized. We're discussing those right now. We did post a water ban, and how long ago was it? Was it a month or so ago?
last month.
Yeah.
Where? How?
It's on our website, it went on Facebook. So, it's been out. The other thing is that we're gonna do a first warning with no
I
fees.
think it was
That
on the
first
town.
warning will be written,
Yeah.
and it will notify them that if they do it again, they will get a $500 fine.
And
So they
Andy-
will be notified directly.
I'm sure that
If they
we can
do.
also put that onto the town website too.
We could even try that as also.
It's on. it
Maybe
was also put on
the
town
practice run for the code red or something.
Page, whatever that.
We could also do a code red on that too. I mean, we will we will get it out there. We did discuss it because we had to implement restrictions for us to pump more water out of Follett Street. That was the DEP requirement.
And that had to go fast.
Right.
It's a rhetorical question, I just, it's.
Yeah,
it's-
yeah.
So-
Yeah.
And it's not, the whole thing is like, I understand, there's the DEP side of it, and then there's the common sense side of it too. Um, I understand, there's the DEP side of it, and then there's the common sense side of it too. There's the common sense side of it, and then there's the common sense side of it too. There's the common sense side of it, and then there's the common sense side of it too. the real issue that we have is, it's the irrigation systems. Those are the ones that are really bringing up our output a lot.
Yeah.
Those are the ones, look, and this is me personally speaking, I understand if you wash your car once in a while, you're not power
Filling your
washing,
pool.
you're not power washing your house every day. I'm just saying, there are certain,
It's not.
there are certain things. I mean, I understand that, you have a brand new lawn and, you're trying to establish it. We get that stuff and there's stipulations, but also, but it's like we've said, it's the irrigation systems, it's the it's all these zones that are going off. It's a lot of water being used.
That's the time of day when they usually
And-
find these.
right.
At 1 o'clock in the afternoon on a 100-degree day,
And your
whatever
water,
water's coming out of your sprinkler, it's not even touching the grass.
yeah,
It's
evaporating.
it's
And
evaporating.
then you will find a few minor exceptions on Sunrise Ave. There's a guy who has his irrigation system, but he pumps it out of.
then you know what?
I get-
Whatever, and then,
So when somebody comes by, they gotta now double check somehow.
well,
some way.
no, see, the whole thing is that,
No, with a written warning.
Yeah, the letter will explain that.
See,
And we'll put notes down on.
and there's some people, who knows, they might even have a well specifically for irrigation. There's some people that have those too. For instance, isn't Pearl that way? Doesn't he have well
He has a
water?
well.
He has a well for his irrigation system, which is fine. He just put a sign up, well water in use. Great.
The soccer hole,
Yeah.
off of Brigham Hill
Right.
Road, that's right.
And,
So-
and over the time, we'll get all that information, and then if someone calls and they'll say, well, we see Peralta all the time, you're like, well, we have that information, correct, thank you very
Right.
much, but.
The other,
We know.
the other big thing too is that, again, it's, in, for instance, golf courses, it's a business. I think there's a provision in that also.
They actually have their own well, and yes, there's a provision
There's
for
a
any
provision for
commercial
that, so-
activity.
So we understand, what can and can't be done. So we're, but we need to establish something because, to go with a $50 fine, $100 fine, I can't come out of the gas station without spending, $80, $90 in fuel, or I can't go to a grocery store without walking out there with $200, $300. So I mean, $100 today is like $10. That's how I look at it, so. I think 500 is a little bit more reasonable and just, do a two-step, obviously everybody gets a warning and then,
Another question to muddy the water.
sure.
What about home occupation?
No, anything that's used in the course of a business or, your everyday life.
They'd have a different
you-
permit.
you-
But unless you have a list of the home occupations issued by the building inspector, you may not know that Sam Jones has a,
Well,
No, this is just irrigation of lawns.
the
really.
ban is basically for unnecessary exterior water use.
but you divide it with residential and business. What if there's a place like with recycling? I have a constant conversation with Kevin. He's on the verge of killing me. When we have these people that have at-home businesses that generate a lot of cardboard, they're up at recycling 2-3 times a week. They're filling a dumpster all by themselves, never mind the people who shop on Amazon.
Well, that I can't
Yeah, I mean,
speak upon, but, getting back to the residential versus business. All right, this is my own opinion too. If we do warning 500 for residential, it's warning 1,000 for business.
When we think about 215 and 500.
No,
You know what, in my opinion, I mean,
I want to put some teeth into the skin. I mean, I write civil fines all the time, $50. You know what they do to me? They laugh at me. And if it goes on to a third day, it's a $300 a day fine, and they still laugh at me. Until I bring them to court,
Hmm.
okay? We don't have the resources to bring people to court, and we don't want to go there because it's a giant pain in the butt. Okay, make it a $500 after they've been duly warned with all the safeguards and procedures in place. Okay, and give them the right to appeal.
Well, I'll defer to your judgment on that. You've got the experience with it. The one thing that I would hope that someplace along the line, especially if someone calls in and says, hey, there's a water truck filling up.
Well, we're getting to that too.
Yeah,
But
We
immediately the
are-
police are notified.
We are getting
And
to
they
that
go
too.
down there as well.
Yeah, we are getting that too, because right now, if a water truck fills a hydrant illegally, what's our fine?
250.
Right, so that is going to a thousand also, as far as I'm concerned. You know, we can't have people stealing water. Number one, we can't have people stealing water. And number two, when they do it, it's stirring up our whole system.
Mhm.
And once it stirs up the whole system, now we have our users who are aggravated because they're getting the residual of what this guy did.
and the two biggest hookups for hydrants. Lawn irrigation and hydro seeding and swimming pools,
Street sweepers.
and
Yeah.
street sweepers.
You
Which are
know,
typically town, but they should be.
Well, we
filling
got
up.
the condos, I was telling Mike, you got condos
Oh,
like
yeah.
Vaudeville, they used to come in and they
Mhm.
build this, get somebody from Dorchester, come out with.
You know, so, looking at like,
Okay.
looking at businesses, I mean, if you're in business where you're making money off of our water, which is now you're stealing for free. I think,
Agreed.
And
Okay.
in all honesty, probably most of the people that we have to tell them to shut their system off or move it to a different time. I mean, I went to the town hall for a meeting with Evan and their sprinklers going off at 10 o'clock in the morning. And I'm like, Evan, come on. But it's Coopman, it's a bank, it's Dunkin' Donuts,
Let the burn.
because they have companies that come in, they put the timer on, nobody in the business knows how to run this irrigation system.
I love a house that looks beautiful, green lawns and so on and so forth. But in the situation that we're in right now, we can't do it.
Yeah, drive down Worcester Street at
Can't do it.
4 or 5 o'clock in the morning.
You know,
it's actually
once we get
more
these-
water on the ground.
If we get these
Yeah.
plants online and everything is better and the filtration's great and we absolutely, we can leave the ban and go back to, whatever we need to go back to, but we need to preserve our equipment and our resource as much as we can without, causing further,
Does Grafton PD have the authority to enforce?
No,
So it's gotta be you guys.
There is a way for us to know if somebody's irrigating based on their usage.
Right.
So, like a few years ago, I wanted to send a letter out to people that irrigate their lawns or use irrigation. And I was able to look at their usage and identify a list of people that actually regularly irrigate during the summer. So we can do that again. And in fact, to your point, send them a letter ahead of time.
Yep.
Before they start
I keep
irrigating.
forgetting that you are giving them a one-time warning, which
That's
is
right.
really,
and the other thing too, Lydia,
it could be.
I don't,
And it will
we don't-
say on
Could be
there,
a lot.
we
more
don't
than
wanna get-
500 If you've already got.
we don't want to be the
Right.
the police, we don't
Yeah.
want any of that stuff. We just want to try and have people consciously conserve as much as they can. And unfortunately, sometimes you have to put a dollar tag on it
Yeah.
for it to register. I mean, my lawn is as brown as this table in the spring, in the summer and in the fall.
Yeah.
It is what it is. But, some people love that green lawn and I don't blame them. I get jealous of it too myself. But in the situation that we're in right now, we just can't allow that.
Yeah.
And it does allow for hand water. It just means you can't be using these massive irrigation systems, correct?
Yes.
Right,
Yeah.
The regulations
So-
say, like, even if you're planting new grass, you're allowed to water your grass,
right.
brand new grass.
I gave up.
And
So you're gonna make a motion on any of these? Cause that's the way it works.
I am going, yes. So we had a discussion if Bob and Ken are in agreement.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm gonna make a motion for the non-essential water use fines.
okay,
Both residential and business will have a written warning first. Residential will be 500 on the second violation, and it'll be 1,000 for the business on the second violation.
Should we,
And 1,000 for any.
should we do a third and just general third and above?
third and above is shut off.
Well, third, yeah,
Okay,
so
that's
I mean, if there's a third violation, then that is definitely a water shut off.
is it another $500 fine and shut off?
I would say probably tag it, not only do they have the 1,000, but probably, $500 turn on fee again, or a shut off fee.
It was
or
already a
whatever.
fee for us to go out there and turn it on and off, so.
True, but this is for
This would be more-
violations, so,
yeah.
yeah.
I'm just saying.
Just, additional violations will result in shut off and additional cost of
Turning it back on.
what number?
500.
500, I think 500 is fine.
For both
Okay.
business too, or
I
just?
would, yeah, it's
Just,
just, I would say, yeah.
Have that as part of. the
I mean, is it
discussion
any different turning a business on than turning a residential
So that it's in
on?
the-
For the most part, no.
Yeah.
The last thing I would like to add, Mike, is the ability of recipients of these orders or letters to appeal directly to the Board of Commissioners. Okay, because like I said, there may be an extenuating circumstance, there may be something we missed in the fine print or whatever. I mean, considering that the severity of the penalties, I'm okay with if somebody has a legitimate question or appeal, I'm okay, I'm open to hearing.
Which
Okay.
they should be addressing when they get that first written.
They should be doing it when
before.
they get the first one.
Yeah.
You know, and you're absolutely right. I mean, because that's how most of it works when, I'm a building inspector in another town. So when I send a letter, first one is a friendly shot across the bow, as I call it. The second one, the hammer comes down. But there's always an appeals process so that, you know, if they have an extenuating circumstance, they can be heard. Okay, so that's why I'm saying you
Yeah,
need to
and-
give them the opportunity, you know, for us to have that discussion.
And all of this can be in the discussion of the motion in the minutes,
Yes,
so that we have a reference point
yes,
in the future. If someone wants to appeal,
Right.
someone wants to fight it, whatever.
And we do have a list of people who have irrigations for what Sharon was saying, so I believe even now that this should be going out to them specifically. We don't know, maybe not have everybody with irrigations, but having to hit everybody first, to even give them a first warning before they get the real warning.
yeah,
Is nice to do.
I also would like, I would also like to have a couple letters go out, maybe one at the end of February or so. Reminding people, and then again,
Reminder letter makes sense.
another reminder letter, probably like late
Because you're
April, when
coming into the
things,
spring,
yeah,
and the water use.
come
even-
into use.
The sign out right in the middle,
Yeah.
be like, no, outside watering is banned,
mandatory, yeah.
Yeah.
mandatory banned.
I do
Or
agree
DEP.
with Adam where any area, because we do have the irrigation program where we have contact information, whether it be a mailing address or something. Somebody that's in the irrigation program,
Right, and the other
get
thing,
a
too,
letter,
and we gotta really contact to the condo associations too.
get them a letter saying, this is what's going to happen.
One
Once
thing
it
that-
is approved.
Sorry, one thing that can also help us too is all the actual like seasonal backflows that we test. We would probably not be testing those, and we can then, when they somebody call for those, hey, we're looking to put our irrigation on. Sorry, we're not doing that this year. Here's the reasons why. So we might hit some people also with that. And those are typically the contractors and stuff. They're not actually
Some people just won't have a choice.
Right.
They'll turn them off.
correct.
Yeah,
You know, I mean, I'm just saying, but I mean, there's going to be ways that we do get some information in multiple venues of it.
Right.
So I think you're actually more often than not will hit people with probably more like 2 warnings before they actually even get to that fine,
that's fine.
you know, which is, it's a good thing.
It's a
a
lot
lot
of
of it shows us communicating.
again, it goes us, so we gotta communicate it, plus they need to be educated to know that this exists.
Exactly.
You know, I mean, I got a neighbor that's, you know, I don't know him, but he's a neighbor in my neighborhood, the front yard looks like Amen Corner. At Augusta,
Nice.
you know?
I wanted to.
So getting back to the original motion, because we haven't voted on that, we good with stated?
Yeah.
As stated?
I do have a question.
Sure.
Can we put a timeline on the appeal?
60 days,
60 days? Okay.
30 or 60, yeah, whichever, considering we're on a 30-day commissioner cycle.
So a 30-day, yeah,
30 days?
yeah, 30.
Of the motion.
Move it.
So moved.
All in
But you
favor?
wanted, and then another one for the water theft fines increase.
That's gonna be a separate one. So water theft fines increase, obviously we're at 250 right now. Is it usually a warning, or is it just like you catch them, you fine them?
Catch them, you fine.
You catch them, you fine them? All right, so keeping that same policy, increase that to 1,000.
Motion made.
All in favor? All right,
Yeah,
That's really false.
and they make money off it.
Oh, yeah. Save them, so.
When I first started, I'll tell you this 30-second story.
1,000.
I had a developer in town that we caught stealing water first time. You know, you show up, put the meter in, it's already turned on, already connected, the plaster and the masons been using it. So this happens 3 times
I got that.
over the course of 7 months, even though he said, oh, it'll never happen again.
Get fined.
So we'd find him, and so finally one day I knew he was building a house, and I took one of the trucks and I backed up to the lumber pile, and he was working on the framing the house. And I started putting 2x4s and plywood in the back of the water truck. He came running around the house, what are you doing? I said, oh, my son needs to build a tree fort, and I needed some lumber. And he goes, looks at me like weird. I said, well, what are you doing? I said, well, this lumber's here, I'm just taking it. And he goes, what do you mean? You can't take that. That's mine. I says, so's the water.
50.
The water's mine, and you keep taking it, so why can't I just keep, never had a problem with that ever again.
Get caught, you get 1,000.
But you, I just wanted to be clear.
Nobody steals electricity.
But it says that.
It's a water connection. You know, turn on the water, you know.
They can figure it out.
Every once in a while, I bump into him, he said, "Daddy, you were stealing my
I
plywood."
want to make sure if we're getting rid of here, straight up. So the third, yeah, so
I never did take any.
what we're talking about here real quick, the first offense was 250, then 500, third offense was termination of service.
Well, that's for people like, we catch
Non-metered
them,
use.
yeah, we catch them taking their meter off.
Well, that's
We're talking about somebody taking water from the hydrant.
any connection to the water distribution system.
Yeah.
So this was
Well,
actually the
it's
same thing.
more water theft they could be stealing if they remove their meter
That's
too.
what I mean, yeah, right.
That's what-
That's your thing.
He's saying it's not what
Someone's
they're
water
saying,
off
and I'm saying it
line.
is. I think it is exactly what we're saying. So the original part, first offense was 250, because any connection to the district's water supply system. So anybody hooked up to a hydrant, that's what we're trying to get at here. So before it was 250, then 5, third was termination of service, and they're required to reapply for their service. So that's a $10,000 right there. It would be the third. So I mean, that's why if you're putting the first offense is 1,000, second offense is 1,000, we're still gonna stick with the third. We're shutting off your water service.
For instance, like the story I just said, you got the developers, you know, every once in a while, they have a wrench and they turn it on, well, because their mason just showed up. And we don't find out until we go to put the meter in. So that's theft. That's the same, I don't know how much water they use. It could have been on for 3 months, you know? So I think that comes under the same category here, that what you just voted is, you know, if you steal water, this is what it is.
if you steal water, this is what it is.
That's what I wanted to be clear on. I
It ain't
appreciate it.
cheap
Thank you.
anymore.
You know, with the cost of trying to get the cleanest water as possible, with the cost of the plants, with everything that we have to incur with the, you know, complaints from our users when stuff like this happens. I'm sorry, but, you know, we can't tolerate that.
I just wanted to be clear.
Yeah. Can't tolerate it. All right, I got a boogie in about 5 minutes, so,
One other question,
Sure.
about the outdoor water usage. So you said we need to have somebody from the water department put eyes on.
Mhm.
So if person on call gets a phone call from Mike saying that my neighbor's using water.
Yeah.
Are we expecting to have the person on call go out on a Sunday afternoon and see if that person's actually stealing water to take a picture? My thought on that was, we're paying him to go out, and by the time the neighbor calls the emergency number and the person gets out there 15, 20 minutes later, chances are the sprinklers are off anyway.
Might be.
but it's gonna be pretty evident that my lawn looks like this.
Oh, no, I understand that, Mike, but I'm just saying,
Right.
if that happens, are we gonna be in the practice of doing it?
Yeah, so I get a page at 2 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning from someone, they're saying my neighbor's using, Mike, do you want us to go up?
I would say no.
Can I add to that? We have the technology to be able to determine how much water somebody's using at any point in time. So we can use that technology here, especially for people that are irrigating at night when nobody's seeing it. We can use that technology even during the middle of the quarter. We can, like I have talked about, instead of reading once a quarter, those people that we know irrigate on a regular basis, We can actually monitor whether they're using
Yeah,
more water.
but
than-
my first, I was hand watering at 2 o'clock in the morning. Tell me I wasn't.
When you hand water, you're not gonna use 10,000 gallons.
You're gonna actually use more water. if
Well,
it's still
I'm
there.
just, but my
If
point.
those-
I say you gotta get a
It's gotta be a
picture.
pic, I
Well,
mean,
that's-
Bob's indication, you know, I agree with that we have that ability, but Bob's indication is you have to have a picture, you have to have that evidence.
Right.
That evidence going in, if you took that to a court, you're not going to win with
You
that.
also have
In my
somebody
opinion.
take a picture of it when they go
It's gotta be us. Yeah.
Oh, it's, yeah,
out, as evidence.
For the timestamps.
Well, I disagree with you guys because
You
you're
guys
using water
you
during the
have
day
water.
when you're off and
Devices,
eating and
we
stuff.
take a picture
You're not
of the
using
second.
water in the middle of the night when you're sleeping, okay? So I kind of disagree. If you're using, let's say 300 gallons an hour during the day, it's just an arbitrary number I'm throwing out there. And then all of a sudden at night, you're using 1,000 gallons an hour. That's not from household usage.
well, here's what I would say on that aspect. If that house has the irrigation meter, it's a different story. Because there's 2 meters.
Or they have history of irrigation.
Yeah, yeah.
If their irrigation meter is moving, then I would say that's a different story. We have physical proof now that the irrigation meter is moving.
I mean, the other thing too that can be done in using Sharon's, thoughts on this is that, I mean, we could run a report of water usage in general. And does it timestamp water usage at all on times wise?
Well, when we do this remote reading, you
Right.
can actually get timestamps.
So we could actually probably, if we monitor the whole system and we see something that like, wow, they're using
Stands
a,
out, yeah.
it stands out, we could also send them an additional letter saying, we have noticed an increased water usage at your,
So-
another, no, not a, this is like over and above the actual first warning. This is like,
Alert.
We are-
we are aware of.
Yeah.
You may have a leak, or you may have whatever. Perfect example, on a leak basis, my mother was blowing through thousands of gallons of water. Well, come to find out, one of the underground heating pipes in the furnace burst, and it was just throwing water into the ground. So, I mean, there are some other issues that we have, but obviously, if their lawn is green, is green.
Yeah.
Well, we send somebody a letter or even a fine and they call back with the appeal, I had a leak. There's a different, obviously, we're
Right,
gonna,
but I think we can also use the technology and say, we can run reports and say, we've noticed that your usage is
Yep.
over and above,
I have one question with
and
that.
just remind them of,
How many days does our
Just an
meter
alert.
hold for information? The meters that are there and the registers, how many days of information do they hold? If they
Well-
only hold 30 days and we're going on a quarter, then you're gonna have to read 2 extra times during those summer and spring
We
months.
should do it anyways, especially with this ban. Go and do, especially for those people that we know irrigate and that have irrigated in the past, and we can tell that by looking at their usage.
Oh, I'm not denying, that's what I'm saying, is, my point is that it definitely can be done and should be done, but yet we are now going to be during, I would say, April to October, reading every month and gaining that information. We probably don't have to do it November, December, January,
Correct.
February, and March, because people's irrigations should be off,
Right,
but it's just an extra cost for us
Yeah,
and
because we
extra
have to
work for
send
the
that
office.
person out.
We'd be sending one person out to do all the reads again.
Yeah,
No,
You know what I mean?
I would say all.
My point of the matter is, okay, I'm just trying to get to the worst case.
but
And
Adam,
I agree.
you know what, we might have to
Yep.
invest in that bit of a cost, just so we can get our own baseline.
I'm not actually just saying we shouldn't.
Right.
I'm just letting you know that by doing it, this is something that has to actually happen. That's all.
Notice they haven't.
Or, like you said,
Haven't signed it
we
yet.
do get complaints, we don't see it, then we can say, well, you know what, some.
That's the most important part of it. You can sign the bills.
It's not even on here.
Put the information off their meter.
So we got one other, we got two quick things that, well, I don't know how quickly they can do. Old business, previous letters from customer tables from last meeting. Obviously, we need to act on those. Again, we're doing the 10%. We're holding off on that. I think some of these letters we have discussed about going through the insurance company. I understand, Anne Marie Foley's concerned, she's had 2 accidents in front of her house and her rating has been affected and it wasn't even her fault. I understand that, but we cannot, reimburse for items. It would just be too costly and too much of a hit to the district itself. So I think we're just gonna have to go with, the insurance base part of it. And a question for our insurance company when they come in is ask them, if somebody puts a claim in, does it hit their insurance too?
Yeah, what's the flag?
What's the flag on it? I think we need to know that too. So, I mean, from the previous old business, I think the insurance is the way to go right now, but I also think too that this is gonna still be open for discussion once we get more information from our insurance company on how this works. So, there's a tentative solution to the old business, but it's not a complete solution as far as I'm concerned. Until we find out all the,
So the people who are looking for rebates or whatever, we just tell them that the 10% is not gonna be added to next month, next quarter's bill.
right, so 10% is not gonna be added to next quarter's bill. That's.
We haven't decided on the other part yet, if it's gonna be
The other part of it, I have a feeling that we're gonna have to go through the insurance company. When it comes to rebates and vouchers and so on, irrigation,
I know what
sorry,
you're saying.
filtration systems. That's a tough one too.
No, it's not.
So,
No, it's not.
so you don't think we should do anything? Then at that point, then we'll just,
You have to look at the fairness.
yeah.
Yeah, I have that home in North Carolina and there's 1,700 homes and their water sucks too.
Yeah,
And
It's alkaline.
and most of the people have
filtration.
filtrations, and I've heard people do them for $200
Yeah.
and $2,000.
Yeah.
So it depends on how good the salesman is.
So then I think, then, we really can't do any reimbursement and stuff like that on that. So,
Did we agree to reduction in base charge too?
Not yet.
not yet.
Okay,
I'll have some numbers for the next meeting.
okay.
In new business, discolored water issue, customer request for reimbursement fee fast at Water Street, Worcester Street, sorry.
Yeah. No, we know about the PFAS went up over the limit, which is why we had to send out that notification. When we took, 2 months after that, we were still running the well because we had for demand. We took the PFAS samples, they were down below again because we weren't running it to that massive capacity we had to. But once you go over, you're over until you come up with a permanent solution, AKA the treatment facility. So we have to treat this well as it's over, even though it isn't. So that's.
So we went over for.
Yeah.
We literally took
So
a sample 1 week and then.
If I drink out of the faucet, I'm not hitting that number.
No, you wouldn't be anyway, because the Worcester Street well was going out into the system and blending with Follett Street and East Street. So right there, it automatically, once it blends with other, it drops lower too, so.
Nobody probably ever.
So the sky isn't falling.
No, but.
That letter makes
You
it
see the
sound,
language that the state, you see the language that the state makes. us
But
do.
you're still building a treatment.
Oh, yeah.
we have to, because they're eventually gonna drop it from
I
20.
understand, that's the right thing to do anyway, so, sorry.
Okay.
Okay, so. Yeah, I don't know if this is rhetorical, bureaucratic, or whatever you wanna call it. I still can't understand why, A, we're starting maybe about a year from now, and B, why, if we say it's gonna take 2 years to build, it means more than 2 years?
Well,
Why does it take so long?
we started
Regulation.
over a year ago. We started this whole process a year ago.
Yeah,
We had to go through funding, which was town meeting. We had to get an approval for a piece of property on Trinity Ave on our first original,
yeah.
was it Trinity or Sunrise?
Oh,
So we power line, so we had to get that approved. Then we still had to go through testing and engineering. And testing and engineering takes time. And then once we get through that part of it, meanwhile, we're trying to secure all the funding, right? Now it's the process of, sending out for a bid, right, to get all that in. Then it's like, okay, Joe Construction Company, when can you start this? Well, we can start this at this time. And how long is it gonna take? Well, providing that we have all the parts that we need and to get everything, to get your system running, and I'm just throwing time and numbers, it should take 6 months. Could take a year, could take a year and a half to get it done. I'm just saying, we're up against
The system.
the system.
Well, again, it sounds like I'm being a wise guy or an a-hole. No, but the fact is, I mean, I don't know how long, I mean, my example was crude when I said the pyramids took quicker.
Yep.
But the Grafton High School took less than 2 years to build a high school.
But,
And they had to go through all that stuff.
but what was the
And
planning
it's
process?
10
then?
times the size.
But what was the planning process?
Yeah, you're not including that part.
And the
That whole
engineering
thing took
and,
about 5 years
right,
For
for that
instance,
high school,
Right.
just the,
because of regulations.
Okay.
What we're fighting here is above and beyond that, because it's not just Grafton, it's not just Massachusetts, it's the entire country. That's one thing. The other is, how many people actually make the parts we need? We're in competition nationally for parts.
Yeah.
There's a shortage of suppliers and parts. And again, every other water district in the country
is trying to build the
Is
same.
vying
system.
with
And
us.
they're years behind us.
That's why we've been trying to stay ahead and get these things done.
So,
So
all right,
that we
but
can,
for the
with
people
the
that,
grant.
the people that think we have done nothing.
Yeah,
we-
exactly. I'm sorry.
We have
I'm sorry.
not, we've
Yeah.
been on top of it to a point where some of us lose sleep over it
I
at
understand.
night,
Now I understand.
and
okay?
we're spending money before we even get it from the state. I mean, so we're actually taking.
I mean,
the
there is,
risk of
there is
spending-
nothing worse when I go on to Facebook or I see something and somebody has brown water. It drives me
In there,
nuts.
public, the little kids and all.
Yeah,
that
and I feel for him beyond belief. I know I've lost sleep over it. I know Dave has. I know just about everybody in this room has lost sleep over it because it's so aggravating and our hands are so tied that we just can't do it like instantaneously.
So again, I'm sorry to beat the dead horse, but it's important. So that publication that went out made it sound like,
Mhm.
to me,
And you weren't the only one.
that it's gonna take 2 years to build, and whenever it has to do with any state, town, federal government, it's way more than 2 years, but it's gonna take X amount of months, not years, to build once these 3 years have already passed. You may not start building it until a year from now, correct?
Matt, what's our?
So it's gonna take not 2 years, so the
Well,
the
October
perception
was
was.
27.
in the fall that we should start construction in the next fall.
You're gonna start in the 27th?
No.
No, 25.
25, we should
25,
start, and hopefully we'll be done
And
by.
again, and I read it, and I usually do throw that stuff out. I read it. And then I read it again before I set off the firecrackers.
Here's an example.
And I still would,
also mandated language too.
I understand, but
What they can add.
so you're being judged by somebody else's mandated language.
Correct.
So please, for your own sanity, I'm leaving this meeting telling everybody that I know, you guys are good people.
I guess we fooled somebody.
No, excuse me, no. You're,
She's newer.
you're good people, but you gotta communicate clearer, better, and don't say that's what those guys
No,
did.
no, that's what we're, no, we're working.
That's- Their point is that our hands are also tied in the aspects of what we send to your household has to be per the DEP. We don't, our hands are tied. We'd love to just send out a letter and say,
Explaining what
But
really
we
is going on.
can't. Our hands are tied. That's what they're trying to get through is, and anytime somebody calls or comes up, we've been very consistent about trying to explain what is truly going on, but at the same time, we've been trying to explain our hands are tied,
We
what we
can't
can
purposely
send
confuse the message.
to your front door in wording.
Our frustration level is like up here. Okay.
We understand that, we're residents.
And again, I know she knows, because she had to listen to me day one, but, there was a woman in our neighborhood, and you know them very well, who called the number, and they said, "Oh, you're on Sunrise Ave, you're not affected by this, don't worry about it." So it's spread in the neighborhood
Yeah.
like wildfire. And then I came down and chatted with her, how come this went out, blah, 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 Sunrise, she said, no, they probably thought,
They call the town hall.
no, they did, they called the number, and they said, you're in South Grafton, that's a definite water
They
district.
probably called South
Yeah,
Grafton
probably.
Water District.
Exactly, and so South Grafton Water District, let alone, I think you guys gotta change your name, but for lots of reasons. Yeah, you're not the Grafton Water District, you're whatever. Whatever, but,
Yeah.
but the point being is, that was misinformation, and it wasn't your fault.
What I try to tell people is,
Rick and Barbara,
And I don't-
Kenny, Rick and Barbara,
I don't know if you're on social
Rick Wise
media as
about-
far as
I'm
Facebook, but
sorry,
I'll tell you in a few minutes.
people go on to Facebook and, Matt has been going on trying to straighten things out, but like you go, I'm just using you as an example.
Yeah,
You go on
please
Facebook and say, my water's brown because of this, because that's your opinion.
Yeah,
Andy sees that, oh, that's why my water's brown? But, and then 18 other people think that's why their water's brown, but nobody has called the office to ask us why it's brown. So now we gotta fight all these people who are all mad at us
okay, exactly.
before they even call, nobody calls us to ask us. I mean, Melissa's on the phone, I've listened to it.
Can you hold on one second? I'm gonna make a motion to adjourn. You guys can discuss whatever you
Yeah.
want. I have to get going.
Yeah, we got a meeting at 10 o'clock in here, so.
Right.